What's the most important issue in the governor's race here in Virginia?
Getting back to the basics of teaching children, not teaching them critical race theory.
And what is critical race theory?
Well, I'm not going to get into the specifics of it because I don't understand it that much, but it's something that what little bit that I know I don't care for.
And what have you heard that you don't?
Well,
that you don't like?
I'm not going to, I don't have that much knowledge on it, but It's something that I don't care for.
My children are now in private school and are thriving. We had specifically moved chased out of LCPS due to the swift and uncompromising political agenda of Superintendents Williams, Ziegler, and the school board that have forced upon us. First, it was in early spring of 2020 when my 6-year-old somberly came to me and asked me if she was born evil because she was a white person, something she learned in a history lesson at school. Then you kept the schools closed for a year and a half despite the science indicating that it was safe for kids to return. And now you've covered up a rape, then arrested, humiliated, and falsely accused her parents of being domestic terrorists. I wish I could return my kids to LCPS. Private school is expensive, and I want my kids to be able to walk home from school with their friends in their own community. I refuse to allow you to destroy our schools. They are not your schools, they are our schools. You all should be ashamed, and you should have the moral courage to admit you are wrong and step down.
My name is Melissa. I have 2 daughters in the school system. These are demonic entities, and we need to stick together. Remember, we have authority in Christ Jesus. These are demonic entities in all the school boards of all the United States of America, and all of us Christians will be sticking together to take them all out. All the police officers that kick us out for our First Amendment right will also be going down with them. Do you understand? I'm a nurse, infectious disease, 13 years. Masks don't work. These doctors.
Oh, she's not a nurse. She's not employed at a hospital, but.
That sit up here, that were sneering at us, looking at us like we're scumbags, they need to go back to fucking medical school.
Ma'am, you're out of order. Please. This is your last warning.
Turn my mic on.
Communications.
They need to remember, natural immunity is best. You are all demonic entities. You are going to be taken down.
The Lord already had your first warning, and this is your last. She cannot speak anymore. The following individuals, please line up.
Last thing before we go tonight, the train to Crazy Town made an unscheduled whistle stop in Ohio this week. You're about to hear from a doctor and a nurse, medical professionals who have had contact with patients. They happen to be anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theorists. You've no doubt heard the conspiracy theory that they are injecting some sort of electronic tracking device in liquid form through a needle into our arms. But this, at a committee hearing in the Ohio legislature, this was next level.
Is it a combination of the protein, which now we're finding has a metal attached to it? I'm sure you've seen the pictures all over the internet of people who've had these shots and now they're magnetized. They can put a key on their forehead, it sticks. They can put spoons and forks all over them and they can stick, because now we think that there's a metal piece to that. There's been people who've long suspected that there was some sort of an interface, yet to be defined, an interface between what's being injected in these shots and all of the 5G towers.
Yes, vaccines do harm people. By the way, so I just found out something when I was on lunch, and I wanted to show it to you. We were talking about Dr. Tenpenny's testimony about magnetic vaccine crystals. So this is what I found out. So I have a key and a bobby pin here. Explain to me why the key sticks to me. It sticks to my neck, too. I got those. Yeah, so if somebody can explain this, that would be great. Any questions?
Yeah, so many questions. And while the demonstration didn't work out as well as she had planned, on the upside, it launched so many memes, some of them downright artistic. And a number of people applauded the convenience of being magnetized when you're going through your house and you can't find your keys. Now that we've had our fun, though, this is what anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theorists sound like. It's all crap, and in pandemic times, it's actually a danger to public health. And remember, the Russians give it a boost on social media because weakened adversaries are better for them. And at the end of the day, our parents were right. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. That is our broadcast for this Wednesday night.
And to CNN, to any spies here that are watching today, I got a message for you. We are coming for the school boards. We're coming for the city councils. We're coming for the mayorships. We're coming for the sheriff positions. And you know what? We're even going for the PTAs and HOAs. You hear me loud and clear. Any politician that supports vaccine passports or mask mandates, we will vote you out.
You ready? Yeah. You're brave. You're brave for what you say and the fact that you stand up there and say it, and I appreciate it. I think we all appreciate it, actually, because there's not a lot of people that have the balls to do it. But I want to ask you something a little bit out of the ordinary, so prepare yourself. At this point, we're living under corporate and medical fascism. This is tyranny. When do we get to use the guns? No, and I'm not, that's not a joke. I'm not saying it like that. I mean, literally, where's the line? How many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people?
So, no, no, hold on. No, stop, hold on. Now, I'm going to denounce that. I'm going to tell you why. Because you're playing into all their plans, and they're trying to make you do this. That's okay. Just hear me out. You started with a compliment, so at least give me a little bit. They are trying to provoke you and everyone here. They are trying to make you do something that will be violent, that will justify a takeover of your freedoms and liberties, the likes of which we have never seen. We are close to have, hold on, we are close to have momentum to be able to get this country back on a trajectory using the peaceful means that we have at us. So to answer your question, and I just think it's, overly blunt, we have to be the ones that do not play into the violent aims and ambitions of the other side. They fear, let me say this very clearly, they fear us holding the line with self-control and discipline, taking over school board meetings. They're the ones that are willing to use federal force against us. And I know that people get fired up. We are living under fascism. We are living under this tyranny. But if you think for a second that they're not wanting you to all of a sudden get that next level where they're going to say, okay, we need Patriot Act 2.0. If you think that, Waco is bad, wait till you see what they want to do next. What I'm saying is that we have a very fragile balance right now at our current time where we must exhaust every single peaceful mean possible. I will say this, Idaho has not even started to exercise the peaceful means of state sovereignty against the federal government. Not even close. I'll give you 5 things Idaho could do right now. The governor of Idaho could sign an executive order that says there are no vaccine mandates for private, for public, for anyone. It's not going to happen. He could do that right now. Number 2, the governor of Idaho could come out and he could say, okay, BLM, Bureau of Land Management, EPA, you're out. We're governing our own lands. We're in control of our own territories. You're out of the state of Idaho. Number 3, Idaho could pick and choose through the state legislature which one of the federal laws they think actually apply to the Idaho Constitution. These things will push back against the tyranny you're talking about. A mistake would all of a sudden be getting into physical violent confrontation. You think that this regime has all of a sudden sprung into action. Wait until they get what they want. They want that. Why would we give that to them? Follow-up point?
I just want to know, where's the line?
The line is when we exhaust every single one of our state ability to push back against what's happening. We haven't even started. We have not even started the process of having Idaho or states like Idaho get back to self-government as our founders envisioned. They gave us state sovereignty. You outnumber the liberals like 8-1 here in this state. Why don't we start to use that muscle peacefully through local government, through city council? We haven't even started doing that, my friend. I know you think like, oh, we have, man, not what I've seen from the state capitol here in Idaho. I've seen pandering. I've seen, trying to go to the middle and all this. And so what is the line? Look, man, I think we're at the teetering edge of a regime that knows that good and decent Americans are going to get to the place in the movie network. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, right? Well, guess what? Know that there's a deeper game at play. Understand the psychological warfare that's being played here. They're trying to animate you. They're trying to get you to do something that then justifies what they actually want to do. So what's the solution? We need to start to demand Idaho to be Idaho, and the federal government can stay out of the state of Idaho for just about everything. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Well, one way to do it is by mapping out the road ahead. So let's take a look at the stops along the way, because so much of what might happen in the next 3 years is sadly predictable. Imagine it's 2022. Right-wing media keeps pummeling President Biden, weakening him, calling him a tyrant 1 minute and senile the next. Donald Trump is in complete control of the GOP, and his entire political existence is premised on the big lie. He launches his own version of Twitter, and he streams a talk show on the web. And it doesn't get as many viewers as Fox, but it sets the agenda on the hard right. And the agenda is revenge, taking back what he says was stolen. The big lie as rallying cry supplies years' worth of content for MAGA media, and establishment GOP figures have to play along in order to keep their jobs. Trumpers like Sean Hannity are enforcers, attacking dissenters for daring to stray. Some have to leave the party. Trump continues to traverse the country holding rallies under the banner of Save America, meaning America is under such dire threat that it needs to be saved from Democrats. These rallies are live on Newsmax and OAN, and they are streamed all over the place. And to quote Save America, red states continue to place new restrictions on voting rights, with local radio hosts and commentators providing all the rhetorical cover that's needed. The savvy ones say it's about voter integrity. The cruder ones say it's about making sure real Americans are heard and illegals are not. Even when Republicans are charged with illegal voting, even when it's the Republicans doing it, they claim Democrats are the real criminals. In the right's media echo chamber, growing ever more extreme, the words Democrats and criminals are conflated constantly. So the other side loses legitimacy bit by bit by bit. The GOP media is on board with this. They're on board with a power grab at all costs, driven by fear of a changing country. Fear propelled by the likes of Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham, who bring up things like caravans right at key moments during the election. And all of this in 2022 helps the GOP regain control of the House. Members of the January 6th Sedition Caucus are now in control of the body that completes the Electoral College process. Now, some Democrats fret about what's going to happen in 2024. They worry if the insurrectionists will have the upper hand next time. But remember, in Trump world, up is down and day is night. And Trump keeps saying the insurrection was Biden's election. His propaganda machine so thoroughly rewrites the story of January 6th that most Trump fans now say the riot was legitimate. It was a virtuous attempt to right a wrong. The felonies, the brutal injuries, the suicides have been written out of the story. The rioters have been turned into the victims. And most people, by the end of 2022, have a sinking feeling that more riots are ahead. Now imagine it's 2023. Trump officially announces he is running again. He faces some younger challengers, but it is still his party, partly because he's great for right-wing ratings and clicks. He has convinced his base that he is the only one who can restore them to power. When critics deride the Trump cult, his superfans embrace that word. They start printing cult t-shirts. Some guzzle red Kool-Aid at rallies to troll the libs. New fan groups organize in private Facebook groups. They call themselves the Trumpets. They pledge to share only real news about the candidate, to get around the CNNs of the world. Of course, their real news is largely misinformation. Meanwhile, key local election boards are being reshaped in Trump's favor, and the MAGA media machine gins up even more hatred against secretaries of state and other local officials who don't pledge allegiance to Trump. Intimidation is one of the key weapons. Cars, buses, boats, all wielded in menacing ways. But when reporters cover these episodes, pro-Trump Twitter stars say, hey, liberals try to threaten us too, so we're just getting even. There's always an excuse provided for undemocratic behavior. Whataboutism is the name of the game. Conservative publishing houses churn out shelves full of books with justifications for every illiberal instinct. And religious broadcasters blast out daily prophecies about Trump being God's vessel against demonic Democrats. The average New York Times reader almost never sees any of this, but it's out there every single day. Remember, it's 2023 now, okay? GOP primary season. Columnists who point out that Trump is a wannabe autocrat are insulted by Fox stars, triggering hate campaigns against them. Reporters who try to counter Trump's lies are jeered and smeared more than ever before. His verbal attacks against the media are so pervasive now that physical violence erupts more often. Beatings at rallies, bombs at newsrooms. The bombs don't explode, but that's beside the point. Fear is the point. Silence through force. Let's continue down the road a little further. Imagine it's 2024 now. Trump is the GOP nominee. He's feeding off Biden's missteps in a foreign crisis. His big lie from 2020 has become absolute accepted truth in his party. There's a clear difference between the people who pay for news, who subscribe to news sources and want to know what is true, versus people who pay for views, incendiary views, what they want to be true. And that's what MAGA media is all about, incendiary views. There's a market for this. It's a giant grift. Even more Save America websites start launching to sell affirmation and merch to the faithful. These sites don't gather news. They spin the news in Trump's favor. They start to publish explicit enemies lists. And in the comments section of the websites, people dream up what they'll do if Trump is denied power, which weapons they'll use, who they'll hurt. At far-right conferences, people ask, when do we get to use the guns? And how many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people? Americans are at each other's throats, spun up by the sick stuff they see on social media. Every day, some random hyperlocal story about a migrant from Haiti or a refugee from Afghanistan is blown out of proportion into some doomsday international story about the death of white America's way of life. This is all you hear about on right-wing radio and on Rumble. They are killing us. That's the general election narrative. And this stuff trickles down, destroying civil discourse, even on the local level. Neighbors turn on neighbors. Normally easygoing local elections turn into existential battles. It feels like there's Republican diners and Democrat diners, Republican bars and Democrat bars. Common ground erodes, largely because there's no common media ground anymore. It's as if America has been swallowed up by QAnon conspiracy theories. Freedom of expression feels trampled, muffled. And remember, as all of this is happening, as democracy deteriorates in 2024, Trump's enablers claim they are the ones protecting democracy. They think, or at least they pretend, that they are upholding the Declaration of Independence. They cloak their autocratic actions in the language of the Founding Fathers. They claim to be the most patriotic Americans of them all. And this narrative is advanced 24 hours a day by the ABC, the apps, the broadcasters, and the commentators who justify stomping all over the Constitution as an attempt to save it. Now imagine it's Election Day, 2024. Trump is the leader of a new lost cause movement. Every single voice on Fox has his back. But outlets like OAN still call Fox liberal, commie, pinko, whatever it takes to steal viewers away from the top channel. And Fox responds by running even further to the right, quadrupling down on red meat opinion over news. There will be no repeat of the Arizona race call. Telling the truth is too risky. The GOPers who used to be responsible party officials are cowering to Trump. Key election boards are, to borrow a word, rigged. The country is on pins and needles. Landlords board up downtown windows. Maybe looting starts, shooting starts. I'm not saying that all of this will happen, but I'm saying it could. We know it could happen because it has all happened before. Almost everything I have described has already happened in one form or another. Books like Peril have all the evidence, And the next big book about Trump and election subversion is Betrayal. It's by ABC's Jonathan Karl. It comes out in November. And it has even more evidence of Trump betraying democracy. Karl writes in his final chapter that America came so close to the edge last winter, closer than most Americans appreciate. I just want to read to you one line from what Karl says. He says, quote, "I didn't realize it at the time, but as I reported on this book, I became convinced that the peaceful transfer of power that happened as scheduled on January 20th was something of a miracle." We know what Trump will do. So what will the rest of us do? That's the story for the American media for the next 3 years.
Please begin your remarks.
Yep, my name's Adam Heikkila. I think you guys know who I am at this point. I would apologize for anyone that believes that last meeting was hijacked in any way at the end, because I think that the important things you all absolutely heard and hopefully you listened to. Again, it's difficult to sit here and push and push and push for people to listen to people and then have them stifle them. I mean, Ben, we have people that continue to come out, and they're going to continue to come out. That's the whole point of this, is that the people need to have control over the community again. They need people that are representatives and not politicians. We have people that need to understand that we have MCL 764.16, which gives us the ability to do a private party person arrest, right? A private party arrest. A private person arrest. And so we need as people to understand that, because when we have local representatives that are colluding, that are doing things to remove our rights, we the people need to understand how we stand up for our rights and make sure that those that are conspiring to remove our rights, which is the violation of 18 U.S.C. 241.
I'll ask you to lower your voice, please.
We the people, and you as an individual do not get to tell people to lower their voice or to control how we address you in our redress of grievances.
Sir, please calm down.
I'm speaking passionately here, and I'm getting a little bit loud. It bothers you, Ben, that someone gets loud when they're addressing you, when they're simply stating the facts that we the people need to learn how we then stop you all from violating our rights.
1 minute left.
Because we need more meetings hijacked with those that we have evidence of. If that's what we're going to call it, hijacking meetings, then we need to hijack more meetings and provide the proper private person arrests for every one of you, that we get the evidence of you conspiring to take away our rights. Whether you can't hear it in a loud, passionate voice or not.
30 seconds.
That's sad. But this is what needs to happen, is that you all need to learn not to violate our rights. And people are learning their rights. Sorry if you don't like to hear that. If I'm too loud when I say that. But guess what? You should be here to listen no matter what it is.
Thank you for your
comments. We have a right to do it no matter what. Yeah.
So, the only thing I can see here is he may consider this insightful. Quote, "So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania. No. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard." Quote, end quote. So is that inciting? I know, not even telling everybody. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. End quote. I do remember something to the point that Congressman Meijer didn't think that his comments shortly after it happened were strong enough in condemning what was going on. But we'll find out coming up after this next break. I only have one segment with them, guys. I attempted to get two. They gave me one. So I only have probably in the end 10 minutes. So I'm going to ask what I can ask, but I'm also going to allow him to speak as much as he can. So I know there'll be questions out there that you guys think I should have asked. I completely understand that. But I have just this 10 minutes, and I'll ask what I can ask, and then I want him to be able to speak to his decision as much as possible. Because, as he put it, and I agree with him, he may have just given up his seat. He may turn out to be a one-term congressman, because there's a lot of people that either didn't like what he did or were very concerned that he made such a rash decision on very little data at all. Yes, I'm sure it was frightening for him if he was in there. But, you know, you are elected to be a leader, too. And we don't want leaders to make emotional decisions on any side. You're listening to The Lodge from Airway. You listen to Live with Rank. Let's cut it short because I don't have a lot of time. I want to welcome back to the Live with Rank show Congressman Peter Meijer. Good morning, Congressman, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Rank. Thank you for having me on.
Well, you had quite a first week there in office, and per your schedule, as we just talked about outbreak, we don't have much time, so let's get right into it. You stated in your Detroit News op piece that President Trump said in his speech that they, quote, before the assault, Trump had addressed the crowd and urged his loyalists to march on the Capitol to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, give them the pride and boldness that they need to take back our country, end quote. Now, what Trump actually said was, quote, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard, end quote. Then, at the end of his speech, he did say, so we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give the Democrats are hopeless. They're never voting for anything, not even one vote, but we're going to try to give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try to give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. And then I guess let's now, with that basis being put out there, and I believe you mentioned that the reason you voted for the impeachment of the president was due to the announcement, this whatever, however you want to call it. He came out a couple hours later, and he wasn't strong enough in condemning it. You know, why did you end up voting for the impeachment of the president? And this is what I get the most from many people, with no data, no investigation, nothing.
So first on the point, and I appreciate you having me on. I think the last time we talked was the day before the Electoral College certification, where I actually expressed my concern that what was going to happen could turn violent. And I talked to people who were coming out and said, you have every right to march peacefully. You have every right to come out and exercise your First Amendment rights. But please, for the love of God, be careful, because I was concerned about two things. Two lies that were told, that without which we wouldn't have had, the insurrection at the Capitol. We wouldn't have had the Capitol be overrun. There'd be 5 people who are dead right now who would still be alive if two things hadn't happened. One was the president saying that the election on November 3rd had been a landslide victory for him that was stolen. Not that there were concerns about the electoral process, which I share, not that the expansion of absentee ballots created room for fraud, not that there are elements of our system that we need to tighten up, and we need to make sure that what we saw at the TCF Center and that chaos, that doesn't happen again, but that it was a landslide victory that was stolen. That's one. And number two, that January 6th was the day that the steal could be stopped, right? That was hashtag stop the steal. There was a stolen election on November 3rd, and January 6th is the day that we can change it and the day that we can reverse it, right? January 6th was the day that Congress gathers to certify the Electoral College votes, and we can hear objections. And I have folks who are raising objections. I think we're doing it out of sincerity because they were concerned about electoral process modifications at the state level and the constitutionality of that. But that wasn't the message that was going out. That wasn't the message that the president was amplifying. It was that this is the day that we can stop the steal. That is why they ransacked the Capitol. That is why they sought to disrupt the constitutional process, because there was a day that they believed could change everything, despite there being no statutory or constitutional basis for that, despite, the courts ruling overwhelmingly against, no investigative body with any credibility finding widespread evidence. I'm not arguing on those points around election integrity. I'm arguing that those two elements that the president repeated were why people ransacked the Capitol at the end of the day.
Well,
and if we're going to be a party of law and order, if we're going to be a party of responsibility, we can't look the other way on that. I don't think we should look the other way. But it's your opinion that those two statements are what incited this riot. And now we find out, no, it was actually being planned prior. The FBI came out and charged a person for planning it going back to January 1st. So certainly some elements of it were planned prior. So that wouldn't have incited them if it did. Here's my concern, and I would love for you to address it. You and other representatives have now set the bar very low for impeachment and elected congressmen and women to be removed from office. So now the bar is if any politician gives a speech or an appearance and someone leaves that event and causes damage at a government building or harms anyone from the opposing view or in that government building, the president must be impeached if it's them, and any of you who are elected must be removed for office if it's you guys, because there's no direct connection. The direct connection would have been Trump saying, go to the White House, and he didn't say Capitol, and he wouldn't have said peacefully, and take back our vote. I'd be there with you, Congressman Meijer. I really would. Greg, I mean, how do you explain, and this is the other thing that I've seen folks trying to backpedal on, is say that this was all BLM and Antifa, and this wasn't Trump supporters, right? And let me preface it by saying, I hate it when these people are just called Trump supporters, because they do not represent, the people who ransacked the Capitol do not represent the vast majority of supporters of the president. But the people who are arrested, the people who are being charged with assaulting law enforcement, who are being charged with vandalizing a federal building, who are being charged with conspiracy, right? There were people who were in there looking to hunt down members of Congress.
How do you know that? Well, that's new. That's new news, breaking news, because
Facebook messages. No, Facebook messages between two of the Oath Keepers who were recently arrested from Ohio. They were, the members of Congress are in the tunnels. Let's turn on the gas. We have to, block them off at the exit. Okay. That was in a affidavit that the FBI submitted based on Facebook messages they were exchanging while they were in the Capitol. Right? So, to your point, were there people planning this beforehand? Absolutely. Would they have been planning it were it not for the president saying that January 6th was the day that we can stop this deal and November 3rd was a landslide victory for the president that was stolen? That would not have happened. Right?
Well, maybe that's your opinion, maybe, and maybe it wouldn't have. And when's the last time you've ever heard a politician use hyperbole? You guys use it all the time.
The Capitol was ransacked, Frank, right? I mean,
when's the last? Let me ask you this, Congressman Meijer. When's the last time a federal courthouse was under siege for 100 days and was firebombed?
Portland.
Right. When's the last time a police officer's barracks precinct was overtaken and burned down? Those were and those were insurrections.
Does this? So we have no responsibility on our side because the left are a bunch of we engage in political violence.
No, we do have responsibility, and anybody who does these things should be called out. That's why I don't listen to one thing a liberal, someone on the left says, because they never condemned what happened before. I don't care what they have to say.
And they lost at the ballot box in overwhelming numbers at congressional level in November because of that, right? They were punished for their acceptance of political violence by the voters. I mean, Nancy Pelosi had to be dragged kicking and screaming to condemn the BLM and Antifa riots that led to billions of dollars of property damage, small businesses destroyed, all that. I completely agree.
All right,
but you earlier said that there was no evidence, there was nothing. Every single member of Congress, like myself, who was in that chamber, stood witness to that.
No. What I meant by that, Congressman Meijer, is there was no evidence yet of who did it. I came out that day and said, I am sure it's all of the above. And it's coming out as all of the above. Now, percentage-wise, who's all of the above, who's more important, I don't even care.
Upwards of 95% of those arrested, were supporters of the president on their social media profiles. Many of them arrested said, I thought this is what the president wanted me to do. This is what we felt.
Okay. All right. So let's use this last 2 minutes, Congressman Meijer, because I know you got to get going to address this. That is what's coming out now. That is not what was known at the time of the impeachment vote. A 3-hour, the last one was 10 days. This one now, you guys trumped that one, no pun intended. 3 hours for an impeachment vote. And that's what a lot of people are concerned about, the speed of which it went down. And with no investigation, no knowledge, no data, almost or very little data at all, other than the experience you guys went through. And I'm sure it was very scary. And I'm sure it was there was a lot of fear that was going on. But we don't want leaders, and this is another thing I hear, making this rash, quick, huge decisions based on emotion. So how would you respond to those people who've emailed me about that?
Oh, I would say that I share the concerns about the speed of the process. But ultimately, if an insurrection at the Capitol, if the intentional violation of the constitutional process, if the president, right, because let's also not forget what he did to the vice president, to Vice President Pence. While the vice president and his family were fleeing from people who were chanting, hang Mike Pence, while there have been gallows erected outside because this whole fiction of a Pence card that the vice president could magically just change the outcome of the election. While that was being propagated, the president was on Twitter attacking him and calling him a coward, right? I mean, while the vice president never left the Capitol that day because he didn't want to give the people who were rioting and who were attacking the Capitol, he didn't want to give them the moral victory of seeing him flee. He demonstrated courage. And yet the first thing that the president does is he tweets out a video saying, we love you, what a great day, but please go home right now. After, dozens of police officers in the hospital, several people have been killed, and the constitutional process had been disrupted.
So you feel at peace with your vote, and we got 1 minute left. You feel at peace with your vote, and you're okay?
We had to get to this point. I hate the fact that I know that I've disappointed people, that individuals feel betrayed. I hate that. This was a vote. When I say it was the worst week of my life, it wasn't because of the attack on the Capitol. It wasn't that I was really afraid. I spent 3 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, right? Worse things could have happened. But it was the fact that we had to get to this point, and we have to send the message that political violence cannot be tolerated. And if we're the party that looks the other way, if we're the party that doesn't stand up for the rule of law and the necessary responsibility taking, then we're done. Right?
All right.
All of the things the president accomplished in the past 4 years, all of that out the window. Middle East peace deals, revitalized economy, criminal justice reform, right? I mean, highest percentage minority turnout for a Republican in 60 years. This could have been a fantastic legacy, and it was destroyed in 2 hours on January 6th.
All right. Thanks a lot for calling in, Congressman Meijer. Maybe we can get together and talk some more about this or the next steps, okay?
Hey, I'm always here for it.
All right. Have a great day. You listen to Live with Rank. We'll be right back after this.
95.3 WBCK.
1045.
If you own a small business, you know how hard it can be to find new customers. But maybe you're unaware of new tools that can help your business stand out. Go to getlocalcustomersnow.com for a free market competitive analysis that will show you what other businesses are doing to find new customers.
Since Election Day, various guests, attorneys, and elected officials have appeared on Newsmax and offered opinions and claims about Smartmatic and Dominion Systems, both companies that offer voting software in the U.S., and Newsmax would like to clarify its news coverage and note that it has not reported as true certain claims made about these companies. There are several facts our viewers and readers should be aware of. Newsmax has found no evidence that either Dominion or Smartmatic owns the other or has any business association with each other. We have no evidence that Dominion uses Smartmatic software or vice versa. No evidence has been offered that Dominion or Smartmatic use software or reprogrammed software that manipulated votes in the 2020 election. Smartmatic has stated that its software was only used in the 2020 election in Los Angeles, was not used in any battleground state contested by the Trump campaign. Newsmax has no evidence to the contrary. Dominion has stated the company has no ownership relationship with the Pelosi family, the Feinstein family, the Clinton family, Hugo Chavez, or the government of Venezuela. Neither Dominion nor Smartmatic has any relationship with George Soros. Smartmatic is a U.S. company and not owned by the Venezuelan government, Hugo Chavez, or any foreign official or entity. Smartmatic states that it has no operations in Venezuela. While the company did election projects in Venezuela from 2004 to 2017, it states it was never founded by Hugo Chavez, nor did it have a corrupt relationship with him or the Venezuelan government. For more on this, please go to our website at newsmax.com. Read facts about Dominion Smartmatic that you should know.
The election, the irregularities of mail-in opinions about the integrity of the election, the irregularities of mail-in voting, of election voting machines and voting software. One of the companies, we reached out to one of the leading authorities on open source software for elections, Eddie Perez, for his insight and views. Eddie is the Global Director of Tech Development at the Open Source Election Technology Institute. We asked him for his assessment of Smartmatic and recent claims about the company.
Have you seen any evidence that Smartmatic software was used to flip votes anywhere in the U.S. in this election?
I have not seen any evidence that Smartmatic software was used to delete, change, alter anything related to vote tabulation.
Smartmatic says its software was never used outside of LA County in 2020. Do you know whether or not that's true?
That is my understanding. Smartmatic functioned as the contract manufacturer for the Los Angeles County voting system, and that was a customized system that was effectively built to the county's order. I am not aware of them having any other direct customers, relationships with election officials in the United States.
What about Smartmatic and Dominion? Do you know if they're related, whether one owns the other, whether Dominion uses Smartmatic software?
Both Dominion and Smartmatic have individually and respectively put out very clear statements from their corporate headquarters, each of them indicating they are independent companies, they are not related to each other. It is my understanding that neither one of them has an ownership stake in the other or anything like that. They are, again, for all intents and purposes, two completely separate companies.
Have you seen any evidence of a connection between George Soros and Smartmatic?
I'm not aware of any direct connection between George Soros and Smartmatic. It is my understanding that an executive at Smartmatic has some sort of relationship with one of Soros's foundations. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Have you seen any evidence of Smartmatic sending U.S. votes to be tabulated in foreign countries?
No, I'm not aware of any evidence that Smartmatic is sending U.S. votes to be tabulated in foreign countries. Again, I'm not aware outside of Los Angeles County of Smartmatic tabulating any votes in the United States because I'm not aware of them having any customer relationships in the U.S. And secondly, as others have pointed out, irrespective of which voting technology vendor we're talking about, in the United States, the ballots that are cast in the United States are tabulated in the United States.
Are you aware of any instances in which Smartmatic's technology was banned in the U.S. in 2020 due to security weaknesses or wrongdoing?
I am not. I'm not aware of any instances where Smartmatic's technology was banned in the U.S. Again, it is my understanding that outside of one customer in Los Angeles County, Smartmatic has no presence in the voting technology marketplace in the United States.
So what happened? What happened with your Twitter account and the company page?
Well, first mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud with these WD machines. We have 100% proof. And then when they took it down about 3 weeks ago, and then I put it back up, my personal, it was a
Mike, thank you very much. Mike, you're talking about machines that we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those kinds of allegations. We just want to let people know that there's nothing substantive that we've seen. And let me read you something there. While there were some clear evidence of some cases of vote fraud and election irregularities, the election results in every state were certified, and Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final. The courts have also supported that view. So we wanted to talk to you about canceling culture, if you will. We don't want to relitigate the allegations that you're making, Mike, because we understand where you are. So let me ask you this. Do you think that this should be temporary because it appears to be permanent? Could you make an argument that it is temporary?
What?
Could you make an argument that this would be a temporary banning rather than permanent?
No, I want it to be a permanent because you know what? They did this because I'm revealing all the evidence on Friday of all the election fraud with these machines.
No election fraud.
Okay, Mike, can I ask our producers, can we get out of here, please? I don't want to have to keep going over this.
Actually,
Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those allegations.
Mike, hold on a second. Everybody hold on a second. Mike, hold on 1 second. Let's talk a little bit about just what is happening overall in terms of censorship.
Cancel out my company and myself in this country is cancel culture.
Thank you, Mike.
Access Vision. Your voice, your community.